On the face of it, there is no way you can compare these two cars. The EV6 is bigger, it's faster, it's more expensive, it's built on a dedicated platform. So surely that's the one you want to buy. Well, it's not as easy as that because of the price difference between these two Kias. It's the big question: is it worth the stretch to get the car that you think you need? We're going to go on a deep dive today into the details, and you can help us decide. Welcome to the channel. My name is Martin Lee, and if you like what we do here, hit subscribe and the bell icon so you never miss a show. Now, as always on these videos, we dive into the design and styling before we get to the good stuff like batteries, range and charging. Now, the older Niro was getting a little long in the tooth, been out a few years, wasn't the best looking car on the road, don't get me wrong, it wasn't a bad looking car. I just thought that the refresh was needed, and Kia have delivered. Now, there's a lot of people who will immediately, their eye will be drawn to that C pillar at the back, that contrasting colour, and say it stands out too much. I thought that as well when I first saw it. It's kind of growing on me. Otherwise, the car is a lot sharper than its predecessor. Inside, it's really gotten a lift also. I love this curving screen, and the materials have gotten a nice refresh as well, and they look more modern. But I have to say, the EV6 is a cut above. The design is so futuristic, so on point. I love the bulge above the wheel arches at the front, that character line that sweeps up at the back and wraps the car in a continuous light bar. I think it's pure class. I think it's a sleeker design than many of its SUV counterparts, and it also belies its size. But we need more than styling to decide which one here. So what about practicality? Space inside the cars. The new Niro sits on the third generation K platform, so slightly bigger with a longer wheelbase also, but it's still a compromised platform. You know what I mean by that is it's designed for either plug-ins or full electrics or some combustion. There's more space for rear passenger legroom, which is always welcome. Storage space inside is up to 475 litres, another 20 litres available in the frunk. The EV6, as you may know, is built on a dedicated EV platform. It's called eGMP. It allows Kia to do more with the same footprint of vehicle, but it doesn't beat the new Niro by as much as you'd think. Now, it will feel more spacious inside, it feels more airy and roomy, but I'll take the boot, only 5 litres bigger. The frunk, if you opt for a two-wheel drive, is a bit larger, 52 litres, so it's not as much of a victory for the EV6 as we would have thought. Let's move on to the batteries, range and charging. Starting with the batteries, what goes into these two cars, or rather what goes underneath them? Let's look at the Niro EV and its 64.8 kilowatt hour battery. Efficiency is at least matched with the older model, so WLTP range 290 miles, which is just fantastic, and we're sure that in summer, in favourable conditions, you can clear 300 miles no worries. Obviously less on the motorway, and if you had in your mind 250 miles in the real world for the new Niro, you wouldn't be far wrong. EV6 can be had with 2 different batteries, depending on your market. Standard range, 54 kilowatt hour, usable, good for 200 miles in the real world. But a nice boost when you step up to the 72.5 kilowatt hour long range variant. In two-wheel drive format, that gets you a solid 250 miles in the real world. Maybe 350 miles if you're careful in the summer and driving slower. So all in all, the EV6 can go a little further if you spend a lot of extra money for the larger battery. But is it worth it? Alright, let's talk charging, because, well, this may swing it for you depending on how you're going to use the vehicle. You see, the EV6 is built on an 800-volt architecture, so Kia can do a lot when it comes to charging. You'll see peak rates of up to 230 kilowatts on a DC fast charger, and on AC, 11 kilowatts. On the other hand, the new Niro EV doesn't fare as well, and we're going to criticize it in a little bit. Now, they haven't gone backwards for the new version. They've altered the battery chemistry to give it a slightly better, more consistent cold weather charging profile. They've added some preconditioning when navigating to a charger, and that's very welcome. But the speeds haven't changed as much as maybe you would like. Maybe they should be at least 100 kilowatts. Having said that, we're a few years away from having 150 kilowatt or 350 kilowatt chargers everywhere. So, for now, the Kia Niro EV maxes out a 50 kilowatt DC fast charger, the really common ones that you'll see all around. On AC, we haven't heard that the optional 11 kilowatts onboard charger will be upgraded any higher, and I seriously doubt it will be. And now it's on to the good stuff, performance, because it's here the EV6 starts to shine. Let's take the pedestrian pace of the Niro EV first, and I say that tongue-in-cheek obviously because look, 150 kilowatt motor, 255 newton meters of torque is plenty for just about anyone. 7.8 seconds, 0 to 62 miles an hour, 0 to 100 kilometers an hour, but the EV6 does thrash it somewhat. Well, having said that, the standard range two-wheel drive EV6 is a smidge slower than the Niro EV, but not many will opt for that version. Long range, all-wheel drive gets you a sprint of 5.2 seconds, which is really fast. That's for a 2-ton SUV. And if you're willing to splash the cash and get the GT version, 430 kilowatts of power, and it'll do the dash in 3.5 seconds, which is Tesla Model 3 performance territory. And now we get on to price, but it's really difficult to compare these on prices because the amount of money that you pay is going to be different in various countries and regions around the world. There's different expectations on these two vehicles as well. We don't have detailed pricing for the new Niro EV yet, but where I am, the older Niro started around £35,000 for the 64 kilowatt hour battery. It'll be interesting to see if Kia put the same downwards pressure on that price to separate it from the premium EV6. That kicks off at around £41,000 for the long-range two-wheel drive models. Having said that, if you want to go for the long-range all-wheel drive, you're getting into £50,000 territory. Obviously, this changes all around the world, with cars fitting into certain incentives brackets in different countries. So what separates these two cars, and why would you buy one over the other? Well, I'm a little torn about this. On one hand, the new Niro has made great strides, more design flair. It's a tried, trusted and proven car. It's got vehicle-to-load capability. It's added battery preconditioning. It's got more space. And if you don't need the extras that come with the EV6, it's hard to justify that premium of perhaps £15,000. On the other hand, the EV6 is built on that dedicated platform. It was designed from the very beginning to be an electric car, and it's an excellent example of what EVs are becoming. Bottom line, it's a better vehicle, and it deserves to cost a good bit more. But people don't always buy cars based on stats. See, it comes down to what you want in your heart, doesn't it? And for me, if I was looking to save a bit of money, then I'd just buy a used e-Niro, still a great EV. But if I was in the market for something new and I had the money, I'd definitely go for the EV6. I mean, for me, long-range two-wheel drive would be my perfect option. It's the sweet spot. I love the styling, I love the power, I don't need crazy speeds. The interior comfort and layout gives a little bit more on that dedicated platform to feel like you're driving a car that was meant to be an EV from the very beginning. But what about you? Has Kia done enough with the new Niro? What would you go for? How much cheaper does the Niro need to be to swing you away from the EV6, and maybe neither float your boat. What are you thinking? ENIAC, ID4, Nissan Ariya? Hey, I'd love to hear from you. Leave a comment below. Thank you so much for watching. Join us on Facebook and Instagram. If you search Best EV, we'll keep the conversation going. Details in the description below, and I'll see you on the next one.